So given how our nation has revamped nearly every aspect of our lives, from flying in airports or through airports, flying on planes, to letting the government spy on us just to keep us safe from terrorists, Republicans will immediately close the gaping security threat of the terrorist gun loophole, right? Well, here to offer his take on this issue is David Kopel, attorney, author, and research director at the Independence Institute. David, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
If Al-Qaeda tries to blow up a plane with a shoe bomb, we all have to take off our shoes. So now that they've said that they're going to send people to gun shows to exploit the gun show loophole, it's kind of a no-brainer, right? Close the loopholes?
Well, that loophole that this trader was talking about shows he doesn't really know much about the United States, having left it years ago. He claimed you could buy a so-called automatic assault rifle at a gun show with no background check, and he's just dead wrong about that. Ever since the National Firearms Act of 1934, in order to buy a machine gun, an automatic weapon, you have to get permission from your local law enforcement.
So he was off by one word. He forgot the word semi. If he had said semi-automatic, he would have been 100% accurate, right?
Well, there's a whole difference in the world between George Washington and George Washington Carver. You can say that's one word, but the fact is machine guns in this country have been tightly controlled since 1934.
But if you've got a 30-shot clip and a semi-automatic weapon, you can do some serious damage, as we saw in Arizona.
You can do serious damage with any kind of firearm. There shouldn't be any kind of firearm available to bad people. But what I'm really kind of disappointed to hear you talking about is this McCarthyite stuff that says because somebody puts you on a government list, you should lose your constitutional rights. I wasn't for the Patriot Act. Maybe you are, but I think the Patriot Act goes in the wrong direction, and we should be reforming the Patriot Act rather than looking for excuses to extend it further. There's one important part about this that these gun prohibition proponents never tell you. Under federal law and lots of counterpart state laws, if you are what's called a prohibited person, then it's not only illegal for you to buy a gun, it's illegal for you to even possess a gun momentarily, such as to, if a friend gives it to you at a shooting range, to hold it in your hands for, say, 15 seconds while you shoot it at a target. So if you're a prohibited person in the United States, that's based on things that are based on fair determinations with due process, such as a person has a felony conviction, or they've been adjudicated mentally ill, or they have a dishonorable
discharge. David, is the bottom line here what you're saying, that the right to own guns in your mind is so sacrosanct that even if we're setting ourselves up for an American Mumbai, we should absolutely defer to it in all cases?
Well, I don't think you take any constitutional right away from anyone without due process of law. If someone's got a felony conviction,
okay, so now
they had a fair
then we get into an argument about whether these guys who are buying guns are members of militias, right? Because doesn't the Second Amendment begins, in order to maintain a well-regulated militia?
Well, whatever it is, whether you're talking about making, even if there were no Second Amendment, throw that out the window. The federal law is if you're a prohibited person, it's illegal for you to hold a gun in your hands. And what you're advocating would be to say somebody who doesn't even know that they're on some secret government list, which was created without due process, without a fair hearing, without the opportunity to cross-examine witnesses.
But I'm not going to argue with you on that. The ability to hold a gun or the ability to get on a plane or anything else like that, I'm in agreement with you that before any American should have any of their rights narrowed, there should be a due process. And we can agree on that.
Good. So then we would be against this so-called secret list to take away people's rights. And
but that doesn't have anything to do with the gun show loophole. And that doesn't have anything to do with this love affair that Americans seem to have with guns.
There is no gun show loophole in this country. The laws about selling guns at gun shows are exactly the same as they are for selling guns anywhere else. The idea of a gun show loophole.
Then why is it that Mexican drug lords are coming over the border to buy guns and gun shows in Texas and Arizona and New Mexico?
That's another lie that you've been told by the gun ban groups and their allies. If you should look at the recent report by Stratfor and by the Department of Justice's Office of Inspector General about these guns, most of these guns are stolen in the United States. The average age of an American gun in the United States found in a Mexican crime scene is 14 years old. That's not a gun that was recently bought at a gun show or a gun store in Arizona or anyplace else. That's a gun that was lawfully purchased years ago, stolen, and then sold through a black market of trafficking.
So your solution to the problem of weapons violence in the United States is what? That everyone should be armed, that everyone should go through training in how to use a weapon?
There are lots of solutions to violence. You can't say there's one kind of simplistic one, and certainly the gun prohibition.
Gun-based violence.
Well, we need to recognize, as I wrote in a Supreme Court brief in the Heller case, for a large coalition of law enforcement organizations, including the two major organizations that train the police in gun use, is you recognize two things. One, guns in the hands of bad people is really dangerous, and you want to take steps to minimize that. And secondly, guns in the hands of good, law-abiding people helps public safety and help the police. So you have policies that go on those dual tracks.
So should we have mandatory gun ownership? Is that what you're suggesting? If you're a good person, you own a gun?
I'm not suggesting that, but the places that have tried it, like Kennesaw, Georgia, actually saw a dramatic decline in their burglary rate. And that's one of the reasons why the United States is a safer country.
Just down the road from Kennesaw, Georgia, there was no change in their burglary rate, and they became a joke. And I lived in Atlanta when that law was passed, or in Roswell.
Well, you apparently haven't read the statistics and the criminal justice studies of that. Kennesaw's home invasion burglary rate fell dramatically after their mandate that everybody who can legally own a gun, every household.
But people didn't actually run out and buy guns because, in any case, David, we're out of time here. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Get killed if they went in. Thank you.
Okay, I appreciate it.